Hi, hello to everyone. Let's going to discuss some human anatomy introduction. What is anatomy actually? Anatomy means the study of the structures of the human body, and it is closely related to the physiology. As we all know, physiology means is the study of functions of our human body. What is the divisions of anatomy? Gross anatomy, structures that can be seen with an eye, muscles, bones, various organs. Microscopic anatomy, structures that cannot be seen with eye, need to use microscope. And cytology means study of cells, histology means study of tissues. How can you made up of? How can you made up of, like, elemental composition of our human body is made up of hydrogen 62%, oxygen 26%, carbon 10%, and nitrogen 10%, and other elements like calcium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, sulfur, chlorine, magnesium, iron, iodine, and trace elements. These also play some other element roles. And here you can see in the B the molecular composition of human body, which is made up of 67% water, 20% proteins, 10% lipids, 3% carbohydrates. Ways to study anatomy, like regional anatomy. What is regional anatomy? Study of one region of the body at a time and learn everything about the region. What is systemic anatomy? Means study of one body system at a time. This is approach we will use in this course. Anatomical organization: cells, tissues, organs, organ system, organism. Here the organism level, we have many organ system levels, like integumentary, which is for skin; skeletal, as we all know, it's made up of bones; muscular and nervous, and endocrine system, and also cardiovascular system, and lymphatic system, respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive. And these organ system levels, as we discussed now: integument, skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, cardiovascular, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive. So this is everything you need to understand. Here these all names is very important to understand normal anatomy. Here you can see in the cranium part there is the skull, and in the anterior view you can see the face, and also this is the trunk, and also here you can see the abdomen, and also upper limb, lower limbs. These are all the important. And here you can see the patella, and also this foot. Everything is mentioned namely. And in the posterior view you can see popliteus, calcaneus, panta, gluteus. Gluteus maximus is the biggest muscle in our bone, and lumbus, and shoulder. Here the female showing here posterior view and lateral view, anterior view, cranial to caudal view. Superiorly you can see here like this, from starting from right and left. In the right you can see the lateral, proximal to the distal, proximal to the distal. In the upper limb, from proximal to the distal, and in the lower limb, from proximal to the distal. And here the four-footed body directions. Here you can see how we can divide these four-footed body directions, from cranial to the caudal, from dorsal to the ventral, from proximal to the distal. Here mentioned very clearly. And what is the planes and sections? Sagittal section divides the body into right and left sides. Mid-sagittal section straight down the center of the body. Frontal section divides the body into front and back side. Transverse, that is the cross section, cuts straight across the body. What is the planes and planes and sections? Here you can see this is the sagittal plane, frontal plane, and transverse plane, as we mentioned now. This is the body cavities. What are the body cavities? Like ventral body cavity, which is also known as coelom. The provides protection, allows the organ movement, lining, prevents friction. Separated by the diaphragm into thoracic cavity and abdominal pelvic cavity. And thoracic cavity again going to dividing into three: right pleural cavity, mediastinum, and left pleural cavity. And mediastinum is also contains pericardial cavity, which surrounds the heart. What is the right pleural cavity? That surrounds the right lung. Mediastinum contains trachea, esophagus, and some vessels, major vessels. And the left pleural cavity that surrounds the left lung, And in the abdominal pelvic cavity, you can see the contents of peritoneal cavity includes the abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. Abdominal cavity contains the digestive glands and organs, and pelvic cavity contains urinary bladder, reproductive organs, and last portion of digestive tract. Here you can see the body cavities. Body cavities means like posteriorly, anteriorly, you can see the cranial cavity and also the spinal cavity, and this is known as dorsal body cavity. And in the anterior cavity, you can see thoracic cavity and also pericardial cavity and also abdominal pelvic cavity. These are all ventral body cavity. So this is the view of ventral body cavity, thoracic and abdominal pelvic cavities. This is the anterior view, cranial cavity, vertebral cavity, as you can see. Cranial cavity, vertebral cavity. Thoracic cavity contains what? Superior mediastinum, lung and pleural cavity, mediastinum with heart, also diaphragm. Abdominal cavities like we already discussed digestive, viscera, kidneys, and peritoneal cavity. Pelvic cavity contains what? Bladder, reproductive organs, rectum, and peritoneal cavity. Thank you. Body quadrants: right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant, left lower quadrant. These are the quadrants of our body. Right upper quadrant contains right lobe of liver, gallbladder, right kidney, portions of stomach, as you can see in the right upper quadrant. Right lower quadrant includes cecum, vermiform appendix, and also the portion of small intestine, reproductive organs, right ovary in the female and right spermatic cord in the male, and in the ureter. Whereas in the left lower quadrant, most of the small intestine and portion of the large intestine, left ureter and reproductive organs, left ovary in female and left spermatic cord in male. And in the left upper quadrant, that is the left lobe of liver, you can see, and also the stomach, pancreas, left kidney, spleen, portions of large intestine. Thank you.